Welcome to Facilitating on Purpose, where we explore ideas together about designing and facilitating learning. Join me to get inspired on your journey to becoming and being a great facilitator wherever you work. I'm your host, Beth Cougler Blom. Hello, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. This is episode 42. And in this one, I am joined by two guests, Fernando Murray and Carolina Almeida. I'll tell you just a little bit about each of the two of them, and then you are going to get to know them a little bit better through the actual conversation in the episode, as always. Fernando, let's start with him. His background over the last 24 years has been in group facilitation and experiential learning. He's a member of the IAF, the International Association of Facilitators, and he's also connected with other professional facilitation networks in different cultures and countries, including the Liberating Structures community, which is how I know both Fernando and Carolina. Now, Carolina Almeida is also a seasoned facilitator and experiential educator with an extensive background in outdoor activities. Carolina currently develops online communication and facilitation projects for remote teams. She works as a mentor and she does train the trainers for online and in-person group facilitation. And she also works as a therapeutic counselor in the Kootenays here in British Columbia. I love that this episode is coming right after the episode with Yasser Tamer, because this one's on safe learning spaces. And that's what Yasser was talking about. And I feel like we're almost continuing the conversation with two new people, Fernando and Carolina. And we're going further into that topic of how we as facilitators create safe learning experiences and safe learning environments with our groups. One of the great things about this episode is that Fernando and Carolina work in countries that I don't work in and maybe you don't work in. And so as you listen to the episode, you are going to get so much to add to your knowledge base around working across cultures as a facilitator. And we, of course, talk about liberating structures as well. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is Fernando Murray and Carolina Almeida talking with me about safe learning spaces. Enjoy the show. Fernando, Carolina, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure.
It is a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this. I'm pleased that we're seeing each other online again. We've never met in person, though. So one day I hope we get a chance to do that. But it's nice that we've met online, and I've been watching your work, both of you, for a long time. Thanks for all that you do for the community virtually, liberating structures and otherwise. You're quite leaders in that field. So thanks for what you're putting out there to the world.
Yeah, it started because we had to. We started online in 2016, working for our clients in Brazil. So it was not an option. Was it nice? We had to. But then we kind of got a hand of this and kept doing it. It's so fun. And being able to connect with people in different regions, it's amazing. We can learn so much.
That's what I was thinking too about our conversation today, that I know that I can learn a lot from you too, because you do work across countries and across cultures. And so definitely bring that into our conversation, because I'm hoping to learn from you, because I really work here in Canada only and haven't gone to other countries myself. So you're definitely ahead of a lot of us who haven't crossed those boundaries yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have been here in Canada for 11 years. And I think along this time, we learning more and more Canadian culture and how to blend maybe the two cultures. But also working in Brazil and in North America. So it's a nice stretch, a nice facilitation skills stretch.
Absolutely.
I still remember, Carolina, the first time we facilitated a group here in Canada. I was leading like a warm-up, and it was completely awful.
Yeah, I was. No.
Yeah, I facilitated the way I used to in Brazil. And I didn't frame it properly. I didn't get the instructions correctly. So the group was looking at me and saying, what the hell are we doing here? And it was weird. And then we started learning, oh, it's different here. We need to do this before we do that. And then we start moving back and forth to adapt. Yeah, but I always remember being inadequate for the first time. I kept doing this, being adequate along the years, but less often.
Less and less.
And actually, this is one thing that I usually say for the groups. It's forgive me if I do something that it's inadequate in your culture, because I come from this culture. And even in Brazil, sometimes we have been living outside from Brazil a lot of times. So sometimes I can be inadequate here as well. So forgive me. And it creates a little bit of safety for people to point me in the right directions.
It's a nice segue into our conversation about safe learning environments. Is that one thing that you do to set the scene for a safe learning environment? You bring yourself into that and just say, hey, tell me if something I'm doing isn't working for you, basically.
Yeah, I think in Brazil, we have to do things like, oh, I dare you can be in silence. It's like this kind of thing. And here in North America, people to feel safe, we have to say, okay, now we are going to do a reflective activity. We need silence. And so please, we're going to do this and that. So this is very different. And the way how people feel safe, it's very different too. So how you are going to frame something in a way that people can feel, okay, I can jump into this activity and it's safe for me to do that. So I think this is the main thing that we have been learning, like facilitating different cultures. Also, we went to Portugal, which is like we speak the same language, but totally different culture.
Yeah, it's more European culture.
So it's a mix of the North American and the Brazilian. So it's in the middle. So it's very interesting what we need to do in order to get this safe learning environment.
Sounds like you really have to pay attention as you go and work with each new culture, each new client. But let's back up a bit, because I want to see if we can set a container around what is a learning environment for you two when you go out. Is it always a workshop? Is it another thing? Like, how can you give me a boundary around making learning environment safe by starting with saying, what is a learning environment for you? And then maybe we can talk about what is safe.
Yeah, if you go back, we start facilitating groups in the outdoors, like rock climbing, rafting, mountain expeditions. So in every outward bound or NOLS course, the progression is always the same. Is the group safe? That's the first thing. Physically safe. Are they having fun? Okay, are they learning something? So that's the progression. So safety, have fun, and then you learn something. So I think this is ingrained in our way of facilitate groups and be with groups, basically.
Was that the same for you, Carolina, that you both came from the outward bound sort of outdoor education realm?
Yeah, I'm in the same background, but I'm a counselor now, so I think I added some other stuff here. If you include people and you respect people, and I think they feel safe to be there, so there is this physical, emotional securities. It's more like, okay, it's the whole thing. It's difficult to separate because it has to be everything at once.
Yeah. And you're actually, people can't see you, but you're drawing a circle with your hand, kind of like a holistic sort of movement you're making that, yeah, there's physical safety in there. There's emotional safety. Are there other kinds of safety?
I think we pay attention to a lot of details. We used to say for our colleagues, we have many facilitators that they work with us and they come from the same background. So when we are outdoor, we are not just paying attention for the group and the dynamic or the content. We are paying attention to the weather, to the boots of some participants, the way they wear their backpacks. So we are used to pay attention to a lot of things. And when we work in partnership, and when we are co-facilitating or co-leading something, we have these two perspectives. So also sharing our perspectives about what is happening, what can be happening. So always paying attention and sharing among ourselves to be sure that everybody's included and everything is going well. Sometimes we just have some signals. We can't interpret the signals properly all the time. So we keep sharing and trying to understand, right, Carolina?
Yeah, and I have been researching ourselves about that, because how we do that, because sometimes we do a lot of train the trainers, and this is a quite a skill to have. And so how we train people to have this skill. So we have thinking about that for a long time. And one key word is vulnerability. If you can show as a facilitator your vulnerability, people feel free to get into theirs. So then we kind of agree in a way that, okay, we are all together in this. And we can be ourselves. We can be our genuine selves here.
Yes. And Fernando said inadequate before. Really, you said you come in saying, tell me when I'm inadequate. Tell me when I fail or make mistakes, right? And that just gets right down to the vulnerability.
And I will be making mistakes. So just let me know. So when we say for a group of people that I never met before, these kind of things, this is what Carolina is saying. We allow them to do the same. So you don't know as well, this group, but we are okay to make mistakes here. So this is a concept that we really keep alive, is this safety. It's not one person taking care of the group. It's everybody in the group. It's paying attention and taking care of the safety of the group. So it's a really big net. Everybody's holding lots of strings. So this net is held by everybody. It's impossible for one person to be responsible. So safety comes from the attention from the group, not one person only.
That's nice because you said you talked about co-facilitating with yourselves and your colleagues, but you bring the participants into that net of, okay, we're all here to support each other. Carolina, you were going to say something, but I then say, how do you do that how do you draw your participants in? But you go first.
Yeah, just adding here that when we bring people in and they feel the autonomy to do whatever they feel right. And so then people can be free and to start doing things. And we are correcting say, oh, this wasn't adequate. We need to change this. But we are open to discuss because it's not everybody is right all the time. We make mistakes, right? But we can make mistakes and people can talk about the mistakes and we can, make it right. And this is human beings. And I think when we bring this humanity into place, people just feel more relieved and comfortable. You can breathe, you can, make mistakes, basically. And like that.
That's why I like some of the language from Liberating Structures. And I know you two are real Liberating Structures experts, but the word invitation, those many years ago when it came into my realm, LS, that we're inviting people in. And I don't know, I can't remember that far back. I mean, was I thinking about inviting people in before? Maybe, but I think it was Liberating Structures that really brought that word to the forefront to me. Have you had the same reaction to the word invitation, or do you use other words to kind of create that net you were talking about?
Yeah, with Liberating Structures, this word got like a body of understanding around this. And there are many ways to look at this invitation. For example, one invitation that we do at the beginning with the group, because we are there usually as facilitators, the leaders can be seen like the educators or the teachers, or we have the power. So we are entitled to be in front of the group speaking to them. So when we have this scenario, right off the bat, we invite people to drop this perception. We are not here to teach you. We are here to facilitate the learning among ourselves. We'll be learning from you. You'll be learning from us. You'll be learning from everybody else. So everybody will be learning from everybody. So we level the playing field at the beginning. So that's a big invitation, not just for one exercise, but for the whole thing. So we put ourselves in the same level of the participants, let's say. And then there is a behavior that we sustain along the process that is not over-helping, which is something that we also learn from Liberating Structures. Every time the group asks a question or asks for support, usually this goes towards the facilitator. And we just dodge the requests and let the group figure it out. So if they don't have us to support, which is kind of a counter, we are there to help them. And we don't. It's counterintuitive, but they start, okay, I need help. So they look for the peers and they learn and they overcome the challenges. So, but if we help them, if you lend a hand, we have this expression in Portuguese, you lend a hand and they get your arm.
Like a crossed arm. You kind of made a crossed arm.
You lend a hand and a person not just grabs your hand, but gets your arm, keep
He's pulling.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah. So don't give it to them. Basically, they'll turn to somebody else.
Yeah. So it's delicate because we need to give some offers and advice sometimes, but most of the time we don't have to. So this is delicate to use.
And I think it's so powerful when like I or anyone find the way to do something instead of just, I need help. I don't know if I need help really. Sometimes I just ask for help, like for a facilitator or something. Oh, I didn't understand. But really, if I, just be in silence a little bit, it's inside, I know. Or someone, so then it's very powerful. So you start believing in yourself more. But if you overhelp the person, this person doesn't have the chance to look to her himself.
Yeah. Disempower the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that phrase. I don't think I've heard it said that way before because I've talked about that concept, but not thought about it as overhelping, like the trap of overhelping. Yeah. Thanks for just giving us that language around it.
And this is a more feminine behavior. I notice Carolina sometimes overhelping and sometimes she's not overhelping, but we always have this battle. I actually need to make efforts to help more. So we are in opposite scenarios and we try to meet at the middle. But it's always delicate. Sometimes you really need to step up and help, and sometimes you need just to step aside. And do you remember, Carolina, when we did the invitation for heard, seen, respected? That liberating structure where people have to remember a story about a time where you were not heard, seen, or respected. And then we made a mistake actually because we invited the person to remember a story, and then we invite them to meet in pairs.
Pair up first. We said, oh, now it's
Yeah, we pair up
pairs.
first.
And then people pair up, and then we give the invitation. So remember a story when you were not heard, seen, or respected. And so the two guys, so it was a couple, and the woman raised her hand and said, oh, can I change a pair? So, but then the group started already.
Yeah, they were stopped for like a couple minutes, staring at each other, lots of things going on. And then she asked for this help. And Carolina and I would look at each other because we knew that they were a couple. The group was going, and all the possibilities just bumping in our minds. Okay, we can pair with them and then make two more pairs, or we can interrupt the group. But we did nothing. We just stopped and looked at them, and then they sat down and say, yeah, I think we need to discuss this.
So you literally did nothing. Like you just kind of looked. You didn't say anything.
We
you
didn't
did
say
nothing.
anything. We just look at each other, start thinking, but we didn't move.
I said no. Actually, she said, "Oh, can I change the pairs?" And I, with the hand, I just didn't
This
say.
option
But
was out of the options. Yeah.
Yeah. So just even the shake of the head.
Yeah, I was just like nodding and just like no, and with my head, and then they look at each other and say, "Oh, I don't know what to say." And then the woman said, "We must figure out what to say to each other now."
Yeah, it was that moment that was easy to just jump in and try to solve or help or do something, but we didn't.
Now, how does safety come into that example? Because in some ways, I want to say that feels like it could be unsafe because you don't know their relationship. Maybe they're about to divorce or who knows what. I mean, what do you say about safety and not overhelping?
It's very interesting, this specific scene that I have in my mind. And there is something about like looking to the body language and seeing that they were ready to be with them to each other. They were in this, was hard, but wasn't safe.
Yeah. It can be
know
hard.
what I mean?
Yes.
So I think body language, it's very, very important to read the room and the people and understand if they are safe or not, what is going on.
Now you work across cultures. How does body language work when you're in a new country or you're back in your home countries where you grew up as opposed to here? Or, body language doesn't necessarily always cross across cultures, does it?
I think some things, yes, but it's always good to check. And we ask questions all the time. And we also make ourselves available if the people need to really get some help. if you are not getting to them to help, if you are afar observing the group but available, some people really stand up and cross the room and come to us, and you can see on the walk how important it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is one thing, but yeah, maybe some things we feel, we observe and feel. What do you think, Carolina?
I think there is also the energy of the group or the field or, like something that is more subtle. I was just imagining if we go to Japan, it would be a very different culture. Probably we are going to need to tune ourselves to that body language because it'd be different from Brazilians for sure and from North Americans. So I think from Brazilians, like the whole Americas, it's almost the same kind of signs. Maybe Brazilians are more like exaggerated.
Yeah, more expensive.
I'm wondering about like very different cultures. Like Indians, for example, probably if you go to India, probably it's different. Then I need to travel more to say more about that.
Yeah, we need to just pay attention, don't we? And maybe ask for help from the group or someone that hired us or that kind of thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, we can use improv prototyping to explore this topic with a multicultural group. But another thing that helps this level of safety in the group, we were discussing this actually yesterday with a group. One question from a lady was around catharsis and people getting emotional in a process, and you are the facilitator. And we were with Keith and Henry in a celebrity interview. They had very different answers, but basically what they said, it's, and we agree totally. The structures, they carry this weight in a much better way than us as facilitators, because the group, as they are organized in small groups in different configurations, they hold the space for each other. So if something bursts in a small group, usually that small group can handle. And if they can't handle totally, they can start the process and invite someone else from another group or from the facilitators. So we have more people handling this all around. So it's embedded in the structures. So Keith was saying about his work, helping people in these scenarios, especially with grief walking, one structure that really touches a lot of deep spaces. And Henry was saying that he never saw this using the structures. People take care of their own fears and their questions and their challenges, and he doesn't get involved. So completely different approaches, but the structures are in the common ground, I think, the liberating structures.
And I think it depends when how you set the tone in the beginning of the workshop or the gathering. Or so if you set the tone in a way that we are partners in this journey, we are together. So if you question what's going on, then people can give you feedback, because we can think of, oh, this is happening or this is, but we don't know for sure sometimes. And like just reflecting back, like saying, okay, I'm seeing that this is happening here. How is that for you? Is it true for you? What's happening in this group? And sometimes we need this feedback. And because we set the tone in a way that we are open to do that, so people just will say like, yeah, we need a break. We are not okay. And then we can have a break and rethink what to do. I think it's a partnership more than us and them.
Is there something that you two do when people start to come into the room, either a physical in-person room or a virtual room? Because I do intentional things as I start to meet people and as they come in, whichever mode we're talking about. But how do you start it off so that you're leveling that playing field with your participants to make it feel more safe? I should go on to say.
I think for me, there is something that is important for me to feel comfortable, to feel safe. So then I can start setting the tone. So it's to connect with people. And I need to have some connection. So if it is in person, we used to have like a coffee break or a welcome coffee or even a breakfast. And we invite people to come before. So we have this time that people are eating. And it's a warm way to greet people. And while we are eating in a very informal way, we are talking to people and understanding where they come from, what are their expectations, and this kind of thing. It helps me a lot to feel connected first. And also in online, we do kind of the same thing without food.
I know it's sad we can't have food.
Usually we ask people to rename themselves with different things. So for example, in our first session, we ask people to add to their names, how are they arriving for the session? Or better level, like 5 stars, you are pumping, 1 star, you're kind of drowning. And yeah, superpowers don't have to be real, but what's your superpower? So start playing with people and turning visible what is invisible. So in virtual, it's easier to get this invisible happening because people are just typing and changing the names or opening and closing the cameras. But you always have something to connect with them.
Yeah, something that we don't do, and I have seen some people doing it. It's like sharing a screen and a music while people are getting into the room. So why we don't do that? Because then we lose the connection.
Yeah, with the shared screen.
Yeah, what we do is like, okay, just come and, oh, if you can open your camera, we would like to see you. And then we kind of trying to be very informal and then renaming, and then, oh, a lot of people are happy here. Oh, you see, oh, I'm happy too. And you try like having these communities among people.
One thing that I like to do is to look at the people's backgrounds. Like we all have real backgrounds, not this blurry ones. So I can see, oh, there is an orchidea behind Beth and 2 kind of handmade pottery over there. Carolina has an alfaia behind her. So all these details. And sometimes I pick the person. Tell me more about that piece of pottery that you have. So people bring something that are very personal because they are usually in their homes or in a personal space. So that's something that you can use as well. Another thing that we use, Carolina, remember when we ask, for example, conversation cafe, you need a talking piece, right? In virtual, you can't pass the talking piece around. So we invite people to find an object that has a meaning for them. They go there and find something. So and then we invite them, okay, when you are in groups, in the breakouts, start showing your object and talking about the meaning of that object for you. And that will be your talking object. So they spend like 4 or 5 minutes sharing objects and stories. So they kind of really connect at that moment, even in virtual. And then they start the process of the conversation. So that's a twist that we make to make virtual more warm between people.
And it works. I've been on the receiving end of that as a participant with facilitator Brett Macdonald, who's been on the podcast before too. And I forget what she names it, but it's that you say, look around your environment, choose something that someone else can't see, actually. So you're talking about things you can see in my background, but there's something maybe over here, right, that you can't see, and then talk about that and tell the story of it. And it's wonderful. You learn so much, and people can choose what to share or not. There's a level of safety. Now, Fernando, I want to go back to something you said before, because it was about making yourself available to participants. That's so curious to me, because I think about a physical room, but I think it can happen in virtual too. What does it look like to make yourself available or not to participants?
Yeah, one thing that we always speak at the beginning of any event is that they can private message anyone, because you can lock this in Zoom. You can prevent people from sending messages among themselves, which is weird. But we always say there will be many conversations happening in the private, and you can message directly people if you want to. Just keep attention, pay attention to not send private messages in public. But nowadays you can delete. But yeah, a little while ago, we couldn't. And we say to people, if you need anything that you need any support, you can private message me and I can help you. And another thing that we do as well in the background, we have like breakout rooms. We have 10 breakout rooms running. We usually put 2 more. We always have extra empty breakout rooms because if you need to do anything, we have space to move to a private space and stay there. So this kind of some tricks that we can use in the virtual to create more safety for people.
Yeah, in the same way in person. So we always say in the beginning, like, oh, if you have any issue, anything that you want to tell, you have Fernando or you have me, and you can come and talk privately. And so we are always open for that. I think it's the availability. It's in too many ways. It's not just like be in person or in virtual in a room available, but also be open for the uncertainties.
That's a nice way to put that. Yeah. And you can hold that too. You know, some maybe newer facilitators or ones that like to more tightly control what's happening may not like that, right? But I kind of just like dealing with whatever happens. I'm okay. I feel like I can rely on myself, or if I'm working with a co-facilitator, we can handle pretty much anything that comes our way, and especially when we ask the group for help too, right?
Yeah, I remember once in a workshop in the middle of the pandemic, at the beginning, actually, the first months, one group was really multicultural and things got very messy at the middle. And one lady was really pissed. She was really vocal and she just stopped the session to verbalize what she was feeling, confused and unsupported and everything. So me and the co-facilitator, we just look at each other, and my co-facilitator was trying to calm her down, but we let her speak. And then I suggest, okay, let's split in breakouts to just digest what we heard. And please come back with some suggestions for us to move forward. And then we split people in like pairs and triads in breakouts for 6-7 minutes, more or less. And when people came back, the temperature, we could really feel the temperature was down and people came with some suggestions and the lady was really calmer and okay to move on. Well, it was like the first time we had to mitigate a conflict in virtual. And that strategy actually became the main one to use when we have things off track. Let's break people and ask them to digest what they heard and come back with some suggestions. So we put everybody on the same place. Bring some ideas to solve this as a group. Don't rely on us to solve this problem alone. And usually when they come back, some nice ideas come and then they combine ideas and then we can move forward as a group.
Yeah, this is a very good example of the what, so what, no what.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you're drawing the others in. You didn't overhelp, as you said before. You could have said, well, let's take a 5-minute break and we'll figure it out and we'll come back and propose the solution to the group or something. But you didn't do that. You really gave it to them to figure, because you're better together, aren't you?
Yeah. And actually, we didn't have a clue what to do. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You heard some good ideas that you really needed. Yeah, we would all be in the same situation. Sometimes we just need the time too to percolate and think about it.
And more and more and more, I believe the solution is not on us, not with us. It's in the group, in the collective, and it's more than just the facilitators trying to find a solution. We are a collective of humans, and the solutions are within us.
And we go to our liberating structures principles. Basically, there's one that says almost exactly that, is that you probably have it in your mind a bit more, how we trust our local solutions or something like that, right? You know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to remember that. Now, you two work with organizational clients as well and go into work with companies, I think, and teach them about facilitation skills. What are the things that you really want to try to help them come away with so that they can handle these things on their own when they're trying to create safe learning spaces for themselves, with you two not there to support them?
Yeah, usually we are not there to do the work. We train them to do the work. But one thing that is consistent, and we had this very same thing this morning, the group of business partners or internal consultants trying to solve the problems of groups or fix groups. That's consistent. And that's the biggest mistake we can do because we are not part of that group. We are there to help them figure out the problems and understand what the problem is and find the solutions they already have. But the main behavior is to bring things from outside and dump on people. Do this. Let's train you on this because then you'll be able to do that. oh my God, it doesn't work. So we are constantly saying about this and giving them processes and techniques to help the group understand what is happening and bring their own solutions. And sometimes the group, they find out, okay, we know stuff, we can do this, but there is this gap that we can't fill. We don't know how to do this. And then a business partner, the external consultant, can bring specifically that piece because they asked it for. So this is one thing that we try to help people to understand. And actually, it's easier. It's way less work than what they are doing.
They are so busy. It has been so heavy, their work in general. I don't know, like after pandemic, it looks like it's piling up things and people are, so when they ask us for a training, it's like we're not gonna dump more stuff so that it will be heavier. No, it's the opposite. It's how to withdraw from the group the solution, how to facilitate in a way that you don't have the answers. You have the questions maybe, or you help the questions going. And sometimes I don't know, it's amazing. We just need to say, I don't know. And then we figure out, okay, let's go together and figure out the best way for us here. What is the best solution for this? I don't know. It's hard for people usually say, I don't know. I have to have the solution. I have to give them the solution. I have to, all this must, I must. And it's very demanding for people.
You should show people.
Yeah, shoulder people. You should do this. You should do that.
Yeah, there is a concept that one friend presented us decades ago. It's like a pyramid. So on the top of the pyramid, there is the word change, and usually the clients they are hiring us for some kind of change, right? We need to go from point A to point B or something like that. And so this pyramid keeps going down. So the middle is understanding, and the base, the very large base, is perception. There is this ladder of the way it's, if you don't perceive the problem or the need for change, it will never happen. People don't know what they don't know. So by the time they know or they have the perception of something, they can step up to understand that thing. And in our experience, when we open the perception and we understand things, the groups, they naturally come up with solutions. They naturally move to some kind of change. We don't have to force them. So when we present this for clients, we will be working on this base here. So we are talking about this big change here, but you need to go down here. Does your group know about what we are talking here? Say, no, we just did an assessment and we have this information. Say, okay, so bring some of these folks to discuss, and then we can design a process together. And usually when they come to design an event or workshop or something, they don't know what they're talking about. So it was completely from outside perspective. So we need to connect this inner and outside perspectives to come up with something meaningful. Otherwise, it's waste of time. And actually, we lost many jobs, right, Carolina, doing this. It was like kind of usual for us to go to a meeting with a client to discuss a gig or a project, and we end up with nothing because we convinced them that it was not a good idea to stop 300 people to discuss about this. Maybe we should discuss just between the 12 leaders. It'll be cheaper, quicker. And then you figure out if there is really a need of stopping everybody and say, yeah, you're right. Let's not do this. Thank you.
Do yourself better some work for the greater good.
Yeah, but often okay, come back. Now we have the 12 that we need to work with. So this kind of, we are transparent in this way. We are not there to make money or fool people around. We are there to help people make better work. So we need to be true to this.
It seems like it's about who are they listening to too, because sometimes we're hired as consultants and they think they want to listen to us. Like, as you said, people think that we're the ones that have all the answers, but really we're there to help them listen to each other and know each other better. And then they can find the way, as you've said. Yeah.
Sometimes we need to make hard questions as well. I like the way another mentor of ours, he said, sometimes the consultant needs to be the insultant.
The insultant?
Yeah.
Oh, tell me what that means.
You make harder questions that nobody else will be asking that questions because they can be fired. And we don't care being fired. So
Right.
we ask
Yeah.
sometimes hard questions and the client say, okay.
Yeah.
And then they move to a different state.
How about wicked questions, which came up in our Liberating Structures workshop that we facilitated on Friday, where there's these truths, right? That they're realizing there's sort of more going on than they originally thought. And they, for example, need to get away from lecturing, but they love it so much because it means they're an expert and it feels really comfortable. But then to also engage the group, and sometimes it's both, right? I don't know. I'm not explaining it very well, but the wicked questions is like not solvable, but just we uncover them for the group, don't we? And help them uncover them for themselves.
Yeah. How is it that we include everybody giving lectures?
Yeah, I think it's the what we need nowadays. It's to align people because we are running so much and people are so busy that they think they are in tune sometimes, but they are not. And I perceived that in like a while ago when I started facilitating in English, and I was like, oh, I need to ask if they are understanding me because it's another language. But then when I went to Brazil and I was speaking in Portuguese, my my mother tongue, and then I was like, oh, are they understanding me? So I have to ask the same question. So then I figure out that it's not a culture or anything. It's just like, okay, we need to align our perceptions first. And then we need to understand what we understand as a group, as a collective. And then we can move forward. Otherwise, we're going to go to different places. And you think maybe that we are going the same place, but we are not.
That's a nice example. Well, speaking of going places, what's next for you too? I mean, you can tell me what you're hoping for in terms of safe learning environments for the future, but even just your work, what are you hoping for as you go into the next months and years of your practices?
Yeah, one thing that is happening for us this year, last summer, Henry called us with a request to get the book, the Liberating Structures book, published in Portuguese. And we accepted the challenge. Yeah, we end up making a project, getting some sponsors. So the book will be launched in August.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
it'll be a big
Congrats.
buzz. And we put this as our goal for 2024 to spread liberating structures in Brazil in every place we can. So we are mixing in person and virtual events based on liberating structures. And that's one thing that we have seen, that it's a small contribution with a big impact. So I think it's the little thing that we can do. It's in our hands, in our control to spread it and allow people to spread it even further. And it will have a bigger impact because people need to be having better conversations. And we see everywhere, people are not equipped to get good conversations in group. So these liberating structures, you can really teach people quickly, and they learn and they practice and they spread by itself. So we are doing this very intentionally this year. Not sure about 2025, but for now, been a nice journey.
And talking about our topic here, so safe learning environment. So I think sometimes it's very broad how to do it, or like sometimes can be a little bit not so handy, or oh, it's this and that, and how I'm gonna read the room, how I'm gonna feel the energy or something like that. But if you think about the liberating structures as a tool, it will help you to not control and to give to the group autonomy. And just by doing that, you're gonna feel how this environment's gonna change. And so I think it's a good way to, if you're starting to facilitate and go to this LS as a tool, it'll help you to bring that in your room. So I think it's amazing to work with liberating structures. I'm very I'm a good fan.
I'm a fan as well. And I think this conversation has made me even more of one, because even though I've been using them for a number of years myself and facilitating for longer, it feels like there's an entryway to, I don't want to say the basics, but if someone's newer to facilitation, there's something there for them in liberating structures, isn't there? But then those of us that have been doing it for a while and practicing, and we always practice, it never ends, but there's something there for us too. And even just a couple of the concepts that you've both brought forward today, I haven't really heard of like someone say it in that way before. And so you've deepened my practice, even when, I never think I know everything, but sometimes you think, oh yeah, I've been doing this for a while, but no, there's still something else to learn. And that's so wonderful about your work in liberating structures too.
Yeah, and I think the wonderful thing about liberating structures, I have been facilitating groups for more than 25 years. And with liberating structures since 2016. And I can feel how my facilitation changed and how myself changed. And in this sense of giving real autonomy for the group and dealing with this unpredictability and being a group all together in this journey together, you are walking with the group. And this is amazing. And not over helping and everything that we talked today here. And I think Liberating Structure helped me a lot to learn how to be a better facilitator.
Yeah, and to empower people, because the world is so unpredictable nowadays with the climate change and political instability, all these battles happening. Anyway, we need to include more people in perceiving this and bringing suggestions, bringing options. So it will not come from one or two, it will come from the collective. So how can we invite people for this conversation? So Liberating Structures allows lots of people with no experience in facilitation to start doing this. So this is a hopeful future that I see for Liberating Structures as a really popular method for everybody to just start using and practicing more often.
And it's open, right?
That's right. It's very open.
And also, like bringing what Henry Liebmanovic used to say, it's like bringing to the education. This is what I see as a future. If we can see how in education of our kids, if they can include themselves in the learning, it would be so awesome. So
it would be. That's a whole other podcast, Carolina.
Yes, I know, but
that's a whole other discussion.
When you talk about future, I always go to the schools and kids, and because of the climate change and everything that is happening in the world, they will be in charge. Soon enough, they're going to be in charge and we are going to retire. And so what's going to be?
Yeah, we have to bring them in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you two so much. I'm so pleased that I invited you into this podcast, to this conversation. Thanks for sharing with us your knowledge, your deep expertise. I know you tend to turn things back to the group, but you do both have deep expertise in this field, and I think we all benefited from it today. Thanks again for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Beth.
Pleasure.
It was such a pleasure to have Fernando and Carolina on the show. A couple of things that I just wanted to bring to your attention again, which are still resonating with me after I listened back to the conversation. There's two of them. One is the piece of what they said around not over-helping in a group, and they gave examples around that. I love that. I don't think I've really thought about helping and over-helping being dangerous to a group, and maybe the autonomy of the group or the autonomy of individuals with the group like this before. So that was a great concept that they brought forward that helped me in my own learning, and I hope you found that valuable as well. The other thing was what they were saying about how basically when they get in front of a group, right off the bat, they say, tell us when we are inadequate, because really that's a chance for the group to know that, hey, we facilitators are fallible. We do make mistakes. We don't know everything, especially when we're working across cultures. And I love the examples that Carolina and Fernando brought up in this about even when they go back to their home culture, they still feel like there are differences there that they're learning about. But just, keep giving open invitations to groups to say, tell me when I'm inadequate. I'm assuming I'm going to be inadequate in some way. And it's okay to say how that is, because we're all in this together and we need to know to be able to grow our own practice and to do better for future groups. So I love that kind of invitation. And that was a great teaching of theirs to me and to all of us as well. I really want to thank again Fernando and Carolina for coming on the show and sharing their wonderful experience with all of us. On the next episode of the podcast, it's a solo one with me. In that episode, I'm going to share some of the behind the scenes things that I went through and did when I wrote my book, Designed to Engage: How to Create and Facilitate a Great Learning Experience for Any Group. It's been a few years now, and I have that advantage of distance to look back on the process and think about what I did and how it went and what's happened since then after publishing a book. I'm doing this for you in case you want to write a book in the field, or you are writing a book in the field right now, or maybe you know someone that is interested in writing a book in the field of learning design or of facilitation or any of the other subtopics within our field or even another field. So this next episode is all about the research and the planning and the writing and the publishing processes that I went through when I wrote Designed to Engage. We'll catch you next time. Thank you for listening to Facilitating on Purpose. If you were inspired by something in this episode, please share it with a friend or a colleague to help them expand their facilitation practice too. To find the show notes, give me feedback, or submit ideas for future episodes, visit facilitatingonpurpose.com. Special thanks to Mary Chan at Organized Sound Productions for producing this episode. Happy facilitating!